Are scientifically illiterate people stupid? Educating the simple layman. Let's say you have this friend. Let's call her Lily. Let's say your friend Lily was funny, entertaining, like a one-of-a-kind girl. She was musically minded, having a knack for playing the guitar, piano, and even singing. She knew a lot about music, breaking it down to a science. Familiar with the standard notation, the terms such as forte, arpeggio, and staccato, what they all meant. The very talented individual also had a thing for psychology, how the brain works, the differences between the right and the left hemisphere. Hanging out with her, things could be awesome, and conversations are stimulating. But don't bring up flat Earth. Sadly, for you, Lily is also a flat earther. But you think we live on a round disk, that gravity is not real, that the space programs fake our footage from space. She's an intelligent individual when it comes to music and psychology, but not the shape of the Earth. You've learned that you can't talk her out of it. You want to try to bring up real science, that she doesn't want to hear it. The typical behavior of people that are caught up in some sort of conspiracy or wrong thinking. But no matter what you do, you can't really bring her out of it. Now, this is unfortunate. And yes, her belief is wrong. But does that make Lily stupid? A lot of us are guilty of considering people in this community circles not to be stupid based on one thing that they don't get. The shape of the Earth, the truth about vaccines and GMOs. But do all of them actually deserve to be put on the same level as moron because they don't know much about one thing? So the topic of the hangout's twofold, actually. Are scientifically illiterate people stupid? And how do we educate these more simple laymen when it comes to the kind of subjects that we'd like them to know more about? Because I don't know if we can approach it the same way others usually do, using technical language and such. So, as I've usually done in the past, this is Trill The Cyberspace Fay, another one of those open rooms run using the Great Debate Community open channel. So I don't have to repeat it earlier, I'll just say that if you want to join the conversation, either private message me at Thaddeus Trill on Google Plus using like the Google Hangouts messages, or the join link is available publicly if you're part of the Great Debate Community Google Plus community page. Otherwise, it might seem like I'm not giving out the link or whatnot, but actually I am. I just can't put it inside the live chat because if I do that, there's a chance that Google Hangout like sniper person can come in and could shut the whole thing down. And since this is not my channel, I do not want that to happen. So for those people who were asking, because there was one asking earlier, that is where you can find the join link. It's not hiding from you, but it is there. So, for right now, we don't have any people in the room, but that does not mean that there's no one participating, because we do have some people in the live chat, and I do read what the live chat says. I know some people, when they look at these things, they ignore it, but that's not me. I've been reading. So there's a few questions I can get to right away, because the conversation could still be had even if somebody's not in the room. So do not get that impression. So let's see if there's any questions that are pretty big besides the no Hangouts link, because Richard, there is a link. So the first question we'll ask or answer, I know it's not really too much to do with the topic, but it says, what is with the clickbait titled Hangouts lately? Well, I think that's how you get people to watch. I mean, let's not act like no one else does it. And some of these conversations are pretty... So here we go. So basically, someone also said that scientifically illiterate people are just ignorant. And that could be another discussion, because ignorance and stupidity don't necessarily have to mean the same thing, because you can be ignorant of a fact, but you can still be smart in other things. That is something that I understand. It was just more along the lines of, do other people get it? Because some people don't. So after all, there is times where you actually do have to put aside the differences. So someone's like, okay, they might understand this, but they understand this. As long as not everything they say is stupid that comes out of their mouth, I'm pretty sure that, it's just something that they're ignorant on. Like a personal example from in real life, I have parents that are more on the creationist side. That's how I was raised. I've talked about this before. I was raised as creationist and come from a Christian background. So it's really easy to be raised on the side where you start thinking, that the earth is only this many years old, that evolution didn't happen, that we didn't come from monkeys, and things can't change from one animal to another. Even though when you look more into it, that's not quite how it works, and that's a straw man, I understand. However, there's a lot of useful things that my parents did teach me, despite the fact that they were creationists and they kind of pushed the whole, well, the scientists got this thing wrong over here. All right. But there are things I did learn from them that were on more the smart side, right? Trying to teach things about, growing up and, be careful that you don't get yourself into trouble, because there's lots of, bad people out there that could beat you up and stuff like that. And, taxes and getting along with friends and, that kind of thing, just life advice. So even though they were ignorant on the whole topic of creationism and whatnot, I wouldn't call them stupid. And I think some of you understand that already, but just to bring it back into something that's more relevant to the community, let's bring up somebody like True Empiricism for an example. Now, I understand he crosses a line where it's like, you're no longer just stupid, but now you're actually being willfully ignorant because people are showing you things and you're just refusing to accept them. That's on a different level. But at the same breath, though, let's just take what I initially heard about the guy before he started doing his dishonesty games. Initially hearing about the fact that when it came to the whole ATP synthase thing and how he didn't understand how this worked, and does a cell parts, do they really look like a turbine? Does it really? That kind of thing. And a lot of the people on the skeptic side of this community were kind of giving him a hard time for it. Rightfully so, in a sense, because these are wrong, and they're pointing out the flaws. But at the same time, coming from someone like me, it's like, well, I wouldn't know. I mean, don't look at me for expert advice on ATP synthase or whatever. It's like, if True Empiricism told me this about how it works and look how it looks like a turbine and all that, since I don't know a lot about cell biology myself, if he got to me first, and I didn't know too much about just how dishonest he was, just taking it from a simple layman's point of view, I probably would have believed him. Now, I know some people might say, well, that makes you stupid, but it's like, no, hang on. I don't know a lot about cell biology. There's only so much this brain can hold. Whatever my interests are going to be things I'm interested in the most and look into the most. Something like cell biology, something where it's like, I don't know too much about myself to confirm or deny something. Somebody brings information to my head, and it's easy for me to just go, oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Sure. Like, I could have very easily have ended up looking stupid if I talked about something like that. So that's kind of something where when it comes to the whole topic of scientific illiteracy, it's like, you kind of have to look at someone like me or yourself or whatnot, and it's okay, you can think what you want, this isn't the thought police, but am I scientifically illiterate for not knowing how ATP synthase works myself? I know some things about biology. I like learning about insects and animals and stuff, but cellular biology I don't know a lot about. Would it really be ignorant for me to say that, this cell's part, whatever, seems to act like a turbine because I don't quite know how it works? Or somebody showed me how this works, so therefore it's like, I guess that's accurate. Like, how many of you guys around here heard about that molecule? That one where the Christians say it looks like a cross. I can't remember what it's called. I think it starts with an L. But I remember that being a thing once, where it's like, if you look inside this cell or this molecule or whatnot, you'll see this molecule that looks like a cross. And it's like, isn't that amazing? That shows that, you know, God did it all. Like, look, it looks like a cross. There's like Christian symbology within the cell. Like, look at this. You can't deny it. Look at that right there. Like, you know, how many of you guys have heard that? Now, if I myself didn't look too much into it or hear information on the contrary, it's pretty hard for me to look at that and go, huh, well, yeah, that's what it looks like. I can't deny it. I don't know enough information to debunk it. I guess that's correct. Wow, I guess, you know, there's evidence that God did something. But looking into it further, you realize that, first of all, what you're looking at usually is a scientific representation of what a molecule looks like. Now, the scientific representation of it, it's all neatly laid out where you can see the molecules as these, you know, equilateral circles and all that kind of stuff, where it looks all neatly together. But at the same time, that is not what the actual molecule itself looks like. That's just a scientific representation of the molecule. So therefore, what you're actually getting is you're getting something along the lines of something that could look kind of like a cross, but could also look like an X. It could also be like lopsided. It could look like almost anything, like when you actually look at what the molecule looks like. Even a scientific diagram, there's two different ways to represent that thing. I know you're probably scratching your heads trying to figure out what I'm talking about. I can't remember its name. Maybe somebody in the live chat knows what it's called. It starts with an L. I think some people might know what I'm talking about. But whatever it is, it's something that a lot of people claim, you know, looks like a cross. So therefore, it is, you know, it represents, you know, that it shows you that God created it. And, you know, therefore, evidence of God. You know, some people can say it's related to the whole seeing Jesus in toast phenomena, which I find is kind of stupid. You know, even though the toast might look like it's Jesus' face, and it doesn't mean it actually does. Your brain is really good at picking out shapes like that. I mean, that's kind of nothing. So, personally, I don't see that as evidence. And I don't think you should either. But if you do, don't worry. I mean, that's how your brain works. Everybody kind of falls for little psychological tricks like that. I don't think any of us are immune to half that stuff. If we were, I think we'd all be like super logical and kind of boring. And I know this is rich coming from somebody who's not scientific, but yeah, here's the thing. It would be kind of boring because I think it takes many different people to make up the world. If everybody was all scientifically illiterate on the same level, it would not be a fun place to live, at least in my opinion. It does make good entertainment. I mean, shoot, you wouldn't have channels like that debunk like flat earthers and stuff like that if it wasn't for the fact that people believe that crazy stuff in the first place. As far as people joining this hangout goes, I did send an invite type thing to Banana Jack. Oh, thank you. Banana Jack actually said that the molecule is called laminin. Right. Okay, thanks. Laminin. Okay. There we go. Okay. By the way, Banana Jack, you do have a link. You should be able to join. I don't know what's going on. But I did at least send the invite out, so. Yeah. So, what I was talking about earlier is laminin. If you actually search up laminin, I'm pretty sure you can see what I'm talking about because there is a certain representation of it where it does kind of look like a cross. And, yeah. Okay, so Tyler Durden says in the live chat, I've given up all the entertainment value of stupid people to prevent their being stupid people. Okay. Well, I mean, that's more of a subjective kind of thing, because personally, I don't mind there being some stupid people around. But hey, I mean, that's just me. I mean, you do your thing, right? I'm not here to basically tell you, you know, that you yourself are, you know, like objectively wrong for wanting the world that you want. I do think it would be boring, though. Yeah. And Tyler is like, I give zero shits on how boring someone thinks society of scientific literate people would be. Yeah. So again, it depends on your values, right? Because I thought about making the hangout about values. like moral values, as far as like, what do you think makes a moral society? What do you think makes a good society? What do you think makes a society productive? Like, what do you want out of a society? And not everybody views it the same way. So some people view it more as like, you know, more of a productivity thing. If people can't be on the same page about scientific truths, it makes it so they can't quite be as productive. And I think that I could be wrong, but maybe Tyler's going for more of a productive kind of value system. It's not about who's entertaining or what their personality would be like, despite the fact that they have certain scientific illiteracies. It's like, I don't care about that. It's more about, you know, the truth. And I understand that. It's just something I personally can't get behind. So right. So anyone who wants to join link, please be sure to ask me. I do have the Google Plus open, so after all, you could send one to get in here. So it is not just me. However, we are getting quite a bit of viewers now. So, I mean, I am trying my best to entertain people on my own. I know I'm not the best at doing things improv when I don't have like a huge script in front of me. But as long as I could use my brain to think ahead enough, just so I can not seem like I'm out of ideas, it helps. But yeah, I'll attempt to answer the questions in the live chat, and I'll also attempt to answer some of the questions on my own. And look at that. We have one viewer. I mean, one viewer, not one viewer, sorry. One person in the hangout. We have Banana Jack. What's going on, man?
Okay, it's unmuted. Not a lot, man. Just thought I'd jump on here.
Yeah. So what exactly do you think about the topic? And hopefully I made how I feel pretty clear. I try my best to formulate my ideas, because sometimes people can mistake what I mean by things and can strawman me.
Well, like one of the people in the chat said earlier, scientifically illiterate people aren't really stupid. They're just ignorant of facts. But, you know, then you do get to actual stupidity comes when you show these people facts and then they do some mental gymnastics to try to tell you, oh, well, these facts that you've presented, you know, they're not true.
Right.
Or this is just misinformation spread by evil scientists trying to move, you know, some kind of propaganda to prove an atheist viewpoint or an evolutionary viewpoint or some shit like that.
Right, like they make it like it's some sort of agenda.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like you were talking about, or like flat earthers.
Right.
Density, not, you know, density, not gravity.
Right, exactly. And that is a weird one. I don't quite know how they justify that, because you kind of need gravity for it to work, but okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in flat earth that just makes my head hurt. But, you know, as far as, again, going that, and even some very intelligent people can be stupid, or not even stupid, just very stubborn, you know, and not open to any facts. Like, for instance, I have my grandmother. She is she's a genius. She has a master's degree in mathematics. You know, she was a professor for a real long time, and yet she's one of these people that doesn't believe in dinosaurs.
Okay,
you know?
That's odd.
Yeah, you know, it depends on subject matter.
Wait,
they're not really stupid, but purposefully ignorant because it conflicts with some other worldview.
Okay, that's kind of weird right there. Like, how do you not believe in dinosaurs?
Oh, well, you know, that just goes with my grandmother's a young Earth creationist, you know.
Okay, but usually young Earth creationists usually still accept dinosaurs. They just say that, you know, they were on the ark and they're around the same time as other animals.
Yeah, she forgoes that because I think that, you know, she's smart enough to know that that's silly. But then she goes even sillier with, you know, dinosaur bones were placed there by Satan to misguide people. and stray them away from Jesus, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah. I understand. It is a silly belief. I'm not denying that. I just sometimes some of these stupid beliefs are hard for me to wrap my head around how someone gets to that mindset. Because with some of the conspiracies and that, I understand. Some viewpoints, like for instance, creationism. I was raised a Christian in that. I've been there. I understand the viewpoint, but there's just some things that are way beyond me.
Oh yeah, same. You know, same. My grandmother was a young Earth creationist, so was I until I was 14. You know, but you know, but then there are other people in the same kind of congregation that can be taught, and I actually had some friends growing up that ended up becoming atheist or agnostic or whatever by showing them evidence for science and biology and all this stuff. So it's just an example of the ignorant becoming less ignorant and then adopting a different viewpoint that's far less silly.
I see. So do you think that the whole ignorance thing or whatnot when it comes to people are scientifically literate or not, do you think that has something to do perhaps with personality wise or emotion? I know we all like to think that we're logical people here, but I mean our emotions and our temperaments make up quite a lot of who we are and how we approach things. So
well, I definitely see on the emotional side. I don't know, personality somewhat. I mean, as far as personality goes, if you find somebody in the deep South that, works on trucks their whole life, they're not going to be very open to, finding out how, grains of salt will come together in outer space and start forming a mass, or something that kind of disproves creationism or something like that. But I can see the emotional part a lot. Yeah. I mean, because, as far as where I'm coming from, there's a lot of emotion involved in somebody's religiosity. If you try to propose an idea that conflicts with somebody's worldview and it's a religious worldview, they're going to get very upset with that. And they might just not even think about any evidence that you present because it's so offensive to their worldview.
Right. And that's something that I find kind of annoying. I used to find it really annoying back when I was still a Christian as part of this kind of Google Plus sort of Hangouts type thing. I used to find that it was really interesting that how attached people were to the younger creationist view while being a Christian. It's that becomes a part of Christianity. And I kind of want to say, look, it doesn't have to be part of Christianity. This is something separate. This is more about, good science versus, pseudoscience or bad science.
Yeah.
As long as you make it part of your theology, it's that much of a core part of your belief system, then it becomes more of a battle of theology. And that's not the way it should be, in my opinion.
Well, it just depends on your denomination, really, when it comes down to that. Because if you're taught that the Bible is 100% accurate, it is the Word of God, every single word in that is true, you're not open to anything else, but then there's other denominations, say Catholics. Catholics have really taken major strides compared to the other religions out there with trying to make people more scientifically literate. They think that evolution is indeed fact. It's started by God, but evolution is indeed fact. And, they have come out and they have their a cosmology department in the Vatican now. So people can still be ignorant. Even, the Catholics, they can still be ignorant, but they can also be scientifically literate. So, you know, I don't know where that's going, if that's going to eventually kill them off, but, well, not kill them off, but kill their idea off. But, you know, that's the thing that they're doing.
George Mayer in the live chat asks, isn't only 3% of fundamentalist Christians young Earth creationist? I'm not quite sure on the statistics, especially since I don't live in America. I'm a Canadian. But from what I see about it, though, is it seems like most of you guys down there, if you're a Christian, you're pretty much creationist. Like, it doesn't seem like you have a whole lot of you guys that can accept evolution at the same time. I mean, even where I live, because I come from a pretty conservative city here. So,
let me see here. Young Earth creationism in America. A 2017 Gallup creationism survey found that 38% of adults in the United States are inclined to the view that God created humans in their present form. That's a number I can believe. I could totally believe 38% of Americans are young Earth creationists. Yep, I could totally believe that.
Yeah, there's a lot more of them out there than some people think, because I don't know where people are getting this whole, oh, they're a minority thing from, because they're definitely not, at least not in the northern world. Both here in Canada and in America, it seems like that is what many Christians are.
It's just, yeah, Tyler, you're only 7% off. But yeah, it just seems like in America, they're the majority of, if you're, well, it's not the majority, but a very large portion of Christians here in America are young Earth creationists. And, you know, just you wouldn't have things like the Ark exhibit,
right?
If we didn't have such a large portion of young Earth creationists in our religious communities.
Yeah, if it was that small of a thing, you wouldn't even have, you know, what, Ken Hab's Creation Institute or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Creation Institute or Creation Museum and the Ark exhibit. Yeah,
that wouldn't be a thing if there was that few people that actually subscribe to that idea. So,
yep.
And it wouldn't receive funding all the time either.
Yeah. Oh, but you know, the reason that's tanking now is because evil atheists have come together and tanked that on purpose.
Oh, okay. Is that? I didn't know that.
No, that's.
I know. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna joke around.
Ham's line.
I know. It's like, wow, you guys are organized down there. Shoot.
Yeah, for real. Your entire 7% of the atheists in America.
Yeah, your numbers might be small, but you're sure powerful.
I know. Power being just a total asshole.
Oh, cool. Another Canadian in the chat like me. It says, George Mayer says, I live in Canada. We don't have that many who admit they are young Earth creationists. Now, I will admit there's not a whole lot that seem to admit about the young Earth part itself. Because here's the thing. When I say I grew up creationist, I mean that. I grew up creationist. It was not so much an age of the Earth thing that was really pushed down me as far as like how old the Earth was. It was just more that evolution itself was not true.
Yeah.
As far as age of the Earth, I mean, I could have been old Earth. I could have been young Earth. That wasn't too big of a deal.
Yeah, I get you there. But
yeah.
Even the old Earth creationists that don't accept evolution, those guys, which that's a much smaller caveat. They think that the Earth is very old, but God created every animal as it was, and there's no change. That's a very small portion, but they're even still out there,
right? And you know, and I'd even say that that's more scientifically literate than young Earth, because at least you're admitting that the Earth is older, because that gives you enough time for the dinosaur thing and that to happen. Even if you don't believe that animals evolved into dinosaurs, it still gives you enough time for the different periods that we can prove happened. So
yeah, totally. I mean, it's it's far more of a, you know, honest position for me if you say, yes, dinosaurs existed, but they went extinct, than saying, oh, no, they never existed. You know, God made the dinosaurs, then they died out. But then somebody's saying, oh, you know, no, that Earth's 6,000 years old, and God made everything as it is right now.
Interesting. Yeah, and as far as like how I believed it back then, because the funny thing was, the reason why, you know, I even enjoy biology to this day is because back when I was younger, I did look into biology, despite the fact I wasn't scientifically literate in the evolution camp, because there was still a lot that I could learn and obtain about biology without accepting evolution. In fact, I could look at evolutionary claims and still accept them as a theory, and I can still understand that, okay, this is what the scientists believe, but that's not necessarily true. You know, you kind of have that kind of mindset where it's like this weird sort of cognitive dissonance game.
Oh yeah.
It's like, so I still learned about evolution without accepting it for a while.
Oh yeah. God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. I'm drawing a blank right now. But the black dude we just had running for president, he was a brain surgeon, and I cannot remember his name right now.
Ben Carson?
Ben Carson, there you go. You know, he's a world-class brain surgeon, you know, and so I'm sure he's very literate on biology, but he does not accept evolution.
Right.
So those two things can exist together. It's very weird to me, but they, you know, you can't accept biology without accepting evolution.
Right. Like when I was younger and that, like you could ask me a lot about like insects and stuff like that. That was like one of my main things about biology. I like learning about insects and like arthropods and that. And but the thing is, I wouldn't be able to tell you, like I might even be able to tell you how scientists and that might think that these creatures came about and evolved and all that, but at the time it didn't necessarily mean that I believed that was true though. So I could look into all these claims and stuff without accepting them to be true. So it's not until I had like kind of a weird sort of epiphany kind of moment where I was able to go, well, if it makes sense scientifically, maybe there's a reason why every single book I read or whatnot repeats the same thing.
Yeah.
But
and you know, as far as people like you that well, like you used to be, or I don't know your view now.
I'm not Christian anymore, but I'm not atheist.
Yeah. What'd you say? You were a misatheist? Yeah, there you go. But people that look into biology but still can't accept evolution, this is one of the examples of evidence you would present somebody like that and try to make them more literate on evolution. It's one of my favorite pieces of evidence.
Okay.
Back, you know, I think it was the 70s or 60s, there were a couple paleontologists that got together, and they were looking for the first footed fish. That thing that you see on every, you know, picture of early evolution of this animal, first animal walking up on to land from water. So these scientists got together and they said, oh, well, we know by rock layers that it would have to be in a layer that was this old, and there's only one place on Earth that we can actually get to this rock layer. And it was in either Antarctica or the Arctic. But these paleontologists went to this rock layer that was only able to be, they were only able to get to it during a certain time of the year, went there, dug, and they were able to predict where the first footed fish would be and got its fossil. Now, if evolution is not true, how would you be able to predict where they would be able to find these bones of Tiktaalik, which is the animal? I mean, that's just such a, you know, that's such a mind-boggling thing, because I've actually had people say, oh, you know, they fake those bones or whatever, but these paleontologists were able to predict where this fossil would be, went there and found it.
Yeah, that should say something. That should spark some sort of interest if they actually want to look into it.
Yeah.
Again, as I've said before, I sound kind of like a broken record here, but somebody actually has to be willing to look into it in order to want to like actually learn about this kind of stuff.
Yep. Anybody that's interested too, there's an excellent documentary on Tiktaalik, and
Right.
And that's where I got my information on it from.
Right. See, and I think answering the whole question, like educating a simple layman type person, one of the things I feel like discourages people from looking into some of these things. I understand that in some scenarios, there's not so much we can do about it. I mean, you can't baby down everything, guys, but maybe with some of the use of some of the more technical and more complex concepts that can easily fly over somebody's head who isn't like literate, like in like the sciences and all that.
Oh,
so therefore,
yeah.
when you speak to them, it sounds like you're speaking a bunch of gibberish to them.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you guys sound like a bunch of gibberish to me. So, I mean, I'm not on a PhD level, so.
Oh, me neither, man. I'm a high school grad with a couple years of trade school.
Right.
But
yeah, so you're in the same boat, pretty much.
Yeah, and might have to mute because I live next to an obnoxious set of train tracks for a moment. So please excuse me.
No, that's okay. But basically, when it comes to the whole thing about people being more literate, how do we educate people? I think one thing that we should focus on is if we really want to educate people. There's a difference between having these arguments on the internet for our entertainment and to call people stupid, and that's kind of good fun. I'll admit it. That's part of the reason why I'm here. But when it comes to actually reaching other people, if we want these people to learn, if we're coming from an earnest place, we want to help some of these people. I think, first of all, being able to break down some of these more complex topics into smaller and simpler and more precise language, and maybe even getting to the point where we have some more precise, not just language, but just breaking down the concepts. Examples that we can use, like visualizations. Not everybody's is a language learner. Some people are more of a visual learner.
Oh yeah, I was talking to a dude a couple months ago, and I'm out here in pretty much the sticks out here, and I was in a situation where me and this guy got to talking, and eventually religion came up, and said, no, I'm not religious. He said, oh well, you can't believe evolution's true. I said, yeah, I can. And what do you do for a living, man? Oh, I'm a dog breeder. I said, that's a perfect example of evolution right there. He said, well, why can't I can see that you can get different breeds and get a mutt, but you can't turn a wolf into a chihuahua. Well, yeah, you can. I mean, what happens if every time you have a litter of pups, you were to take the runt out of each one of those litters and breed runts for the next 70 years? From its great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, you would have a much, much smaller dog. That's an example of artificial selection affecting something's evolution, but it's still evolution.
Right. It is. Yeah, it is artificial evolution because, we are kind of...
Yeah, so it really just... You got to work with your crowd, Work with what they know.
Right. Definitely. It's one of those things where I know some people don't like doing it. They say, oh, if they're that ignorant, I don't want to waste my time with them or whatever. But it's like, if I'm really reaching out to somebody, if I really want them to understand something like evolution or any sort of scientific concept that's kind of over their heads because they're a simple layman. I mean, shoot. I even consider myself a simple layman of a lot of things. Like, I kind of would have to break it down to their level so they can understand, so they know what I'm talking about, and, not use so much technical language where it just goes over their heads and their eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, did you have anything to add since you're here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, too, is with the analogy to artificial selection. I mean, that seems like it's a reasonable one to give to people, right? Like people can make sense. Look, pugs, to me, I think pugs are just hideous, but for some reason they're adorable. Okay, fine. And you can make money as a breeder if you make this little adorable dog. So you go and you find two of the dumbest looking ones and you breed them together. And then you hope their offspring looks like that. And then over time you get the stupid looking pug dog. That's something people get like that. I don't see an issue with that. It seems like it seems weird that people then can't extrapolate that to the natural world.
Well, they have a problem with that. When you say something like that, that's when the old counter of micro and macro comes into play. Oh, that's an example of micro evolution.
Well, and what you do to shut that down is go, look, what's the distinction? Where's the demarcation? Where's the line where it stops being micro and starts being macro? They're not going to be able to identify that.
Right, and if they say it's two different species or whatnot, you can point out, well, we've gotten it so that there's two different species net before when it comes to fruit flies and all that. Now, some people might say, well, hey, they're still fruit flies, but it's like, well, actually, they're two different species of fruit flies. The differences between the two species, all that matters is that there are two different populations that they can't interbreed and produce fertile offspring.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the species concepts. The thing with that is that's our way of cataloging the world. These species.
Yeah.
This is like a grouping system that we've devised. So there are a lot of people who will say, no, it's a fruit fly, subspecies fruit fly again, or whatever. People actually, this is just our way of, I guess, separating things, categorizing.
Human categorization, yeah.
Like, think of it, what is it? The idea of alchemy. Alchemy, everything was an element. There was a rock element, there was a pug element, there was a Google Hangouts element. Everything was an element in alchemy. But then chemistry came along and said, no, there's this periodic table of more finite set of elements. And with that finite set of elements, it's a lot easier to make sense of the world. We don't have to worry about 50,000 elements messing everything up. We just have to talk about carbon, right?
I know some people hate me for this, but I honestly feel like chemistry, in a way, kind of is a form of alchemy, kind of. I view them kind of similarly.
But do you get the analogy?
No, I get it. Yeah,
okay.
It is. Chemistry is way more accurate than your typical medieval alchemy and what it can do.
Well, no. The thing I'm pointing out is that when we say this is a species, this is just a language we're using. It's not like this. So we can say this is a species because of what you said. It cannot reproduce with the parent population or with the population that it's separated from. And so that's what we say, new species. But people have other definitions of species. So it doesn't seem like they're able to demarcate where microevolution ends. And so that's also kind of annoying, because another great example is getting a flu shot every year?
Yeah.
Like that, these people will be able to explain, oh, well, that's because you're gonna have the virus that isn't affected by the antibiotics, right? They're immediately describing something that's an evolutionary concept.
Exactly. I mean, just when you go to any doctor's office ever now, you're going to see these signs that say, "Hey, if you're sick, don't take antibiotics. Don't take them unless you absolutely have to. Take some cough medicine. Do this, do that, but don't take antibiotics." Now, most people just look at that and they're like, "Oh, they're trying to do something shifty." No, that's an example of of doctors looking into the future and knowing that evolution is a thing, because one day we're going to have a superbug that we're not going to be able to counter with antibiotics. You know?
We're gonna have to fight
that's a pretty scary thing to think about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's for real.
We're gonna have to fantastic voyage it, get down to its level and fight it. Can't use antibiotics anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's an example I try to show some of my religious friends. I've used
like
that argument too. Like, if you kill off
nanobots, maybe.
Yeah, for real. We're going to need it because, I mean, what happens when you take an antibiotic? You kill off all the bacteria that can be killed off by that antibiotic. But you're only going to kill off 99 point something% of them. And what's left are the bacteria that are not affected by that. So those bacteria are going to multiply. And the next time you take that antibiotic, it isn't going to do anything because these bacteria are naturally immune to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like this is something that people immediately will be able to explain because they saw on like Dr. Oz or something. And what needs to happen, you don't have to worry about getting into all the science and statistics. It's just tell them, look, that's evolution, right? That's what's happening.
That's another. Yeah, that's a good example right there.
Same with the dog breeding. Well, the bacteria one. Is a better one. Dog
Both
breeding,
of them.
you get into the issue. Well, there's a human being that's a part of it.
Right. Yeah. So again, I guess one of the things we can both agree on is that if you keep it on like a small enough scale, or something that's more of a simple kind of everyday life kind of
you don't have to
thing,
worry.
it's really easy. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to explain to them. Like, what happens is people get bogged down in explaining how to look at science in general.
Right.
When these people, like you said, they're already not scientists.
Right.
And if it's a case that you just want them to know that this is a theory that's supported, this is the one that better explains the world, it has all the evidence on its side. All you have to do is just go, here's a simple example of it.
Right.
But I think something that this well, actually, never mind. I'll set that aside. I wanted to note something. Banana Jack, pointing out predictions. That's the other serious thing, right? The fact that these theories can make these predictions, the ridiculous predictions, and then we go and we find
these ridiculous things that actually exist or are going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one. Because I feel like when people try to use the technical language and all that's where it gets kind of lost. And the thing is, when I see people that do it like this, when they try to basically explain to these things to somebody who's not a scientist like they are. It's like what are you doing? Like, you don't really expect them to get it, do you? It's like, and the person doesn't get it, and then they go, "Oh, you're stupid," and I'm going to myself, "Well, hang on, they're not scientifically literate. They're not going to explain. They're not going to understand if you explain it that way. Of course, they're going to be stupid or not get it. I don't get it half the time if you explain it that way."
To bring it back to the flu shot example, you could bring it back to the flu shot example. At one point, there was a doctor who is like, okay, given this petri dish thing we did, I would expect to see next year some virus that our shots aren't going to work on. And bam, that prediction, it turned out to be true. And that prediction is constantly tested. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Again and again. And so right away you're explaining to them evolution, and you're showing them this is how you make a good scientific hypothesis or a good scientific theory. But the thing that is often forgotten in this community is to turn it around, to go, okay, given your view, given young Earth creationism, given whatever, what predictions can be made?
Right.
Right. What should we expect to see, given the Earth is 6,000 years old? There's like a Noah's Ark and all that.
You don't get much, man. You don't get much.
Right.
Right.
Because then all you have.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Because all you'd have to do is just point out, like, yes, your model, if you can even call it that, accounts for how life in that may have gotten here, but you can't really use it to make any predictions about life in the future.
Wait a minute. I don't. Well, that's another thing. Set it aside. We're just looking at predictions. Yeah, you go look. Given evolutionary theory, we would expect to see Tiktaalik, like the Jesus fish, actually in the fossil record. We go and we dig it up. It seems to me like, given younger creationism, we would expect to see what Bill Nye the Science Guy described. We expect to see like a pattern of animals leaving, I think it's modern day Turkey or Armenia, and then spreading out into the rest of the world.
Right.
That is basically, we would expect to see the koala bear skeleton in like Turkey or something, right?
Right.
But we don't. When we go, we dig up stuff in Turkey, we're not finding them.
Unless you're just trying to tell me that they all magically made it over there and no one died on the way or nothing.
Or Satan took those bones in order to confuse us.
Or none of those turned into fossils. Because here's the thing, not everything becomes a fossil.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But you'd be amazed at how many fossils there actually are. It's like when people say that, oh, there's no example of a transitionary species. No, you have not looked at the fossil record. There is numerous examples of transitionary species.
Yeah, I had someone like that.
You know, but then again, it just goes back to, you know, mental gymnastics of, oh, you only have certain bones of this certain animal. You don't have a complete skeleton and all this, all that. But you don't need all of that.
Right.
If you just have a couple, you can pretty well fill in the blank spaces with something that you have further down the line. You know, it's like looking at the gap between Homo erectus and Homo sapien. If you can fill in blank spots that you have in that, just based on, you know, if you're missing a rib cage from Homo sapien, which we have plenty, you know, but you could make a pretty accurate case for how a rib cage would look based on a predecessor species or something that came after.
Right. So do you think that is, I guess, like, do you think when they say stuff like that, it's like almost, I don't want to say moving the goalpost, but it's like they require this huge amount of evidence. It's almost like they know no one has quite on hand, or
that's what they try to get to.
Right.
It's people that are being, you know, that are trying to remain ignorant on facts.
Right.
They are trying to make the goal unobtainable. You know, you can never reach this because of this or that or this or that, you know. It's just mental gymnastics.
Yeah, so it's almost like, you know, again, it's a lot easier. I know this is a debate kind of tactic. It's not so much about if you're right or wrong. It's like it's a lot easier to go on the offensive than it is to go on the defensive. If you were to start to do the same thing for their views, it could probably fall apart pretty easily. But a lot of times it's not like that. A lot of times you see them go after, you know, the evolutionists, you know, like how do you explain this and how do you explain that? Well, it's like, well, hold on. Well, how do you explain these things within your worldview? But it seems like not a lot of people get to do that kind of thing around here. Not all the time, but...
We got somebody new in here.
Yeah, we got Mr. Intelligent Design. Is your mic working?
Hello, good morning. Good afternoon. My mic is working, and the topic is good. Thank you, Trill. You're always having a good topic, especially in my time.
The live chat would
A while
disagree
ago,
with you.
I was just listening about the prediction in science. Somebody said that tiktaalik is one of the best prediction for the biological evolution. My question, actor, I always ask this question in any hangout or in many online debate forum. How do you know if a prediction is right or wrong?
Well, if it's like an example from Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin went to the Galapagos Islands, and one of the things that he found there was a certain type of flower that had very long pistils. And he predicted that on that island there was going to be some creature that would be able to reach the nectar in that plant. And sure enough, there was only one creature on that island that could get to it. It was a species of moth with a very, very long proboscis. And, you know, that's an example of a prediction being spot on.
Are you saying that by using evolution or any kind of processes in science? In reality, because for example, I will give after that I will give you two examples that will surely think you deeper about the scientific prediction and scientific explanation. But before that, can you tell me when Charles Darwin had used that prediction, what's in his mind as thinking about evolution?
What was he thinking about and his evolutionary model?
Yes, because the reason why I'm asking that, because you know, any erroneous explanation in nature can have a prediction. It can also have a correct answer to that prediction. But before that, my question, sorry to ask you, but when Darwin went to that islands and predicted something, was he thinking about evolution already, or was he just surprised?
I would say, yeah, he would have thought about that, because the way he would have looked at it, I imagine, is that there is this flower and nothing else can get to the nectar, which is also, you know, the way that it spreads its pollen. So there has to be some kind of species that evolved alongside that flower in order for that flower to exist. Because if it was just normal and every insect could get to it, it would not need such a complicated structure. But if you have this moth with the very long proboscis and able to get down to the nectar and pollen, that would mean that these two, this animal and this plant evolved alongside each other, and they complement each other in a symbiotic relationship. So that's a pretty good example of evolution, you know. So I would say that he came into it thinking like that, of a symbiotic relationship, and was able to make a prediction just based on the way the plant was structured and what a creature would need in order for that plant to spread its pollen, and how the insect would need to get the nectar to get its nutrition.
Oh yeah, I understand you. I got that explanation. I knew that explanation very well. And the reason why I am asking you about that, because you know, in science, in reality, because if you are going, actually the topic of the Trill has a very nice topic. He said that, sorry to say, okay, are scientifically illiterate people stupid? For layman. So because in science, science tries to explain nature, reality, but I always maybe this is thing that you don't get. Sometimes science, sometimes it is limited in explaining reality, but it is also, it can be called science.
Yes, but just because science is limited in explaining reality doesn't mean that the things that we have found out in science doesn't mean you just throw all those out. Like, sure, it can't explain everything, at least so far. Like, maybe in one day it might. I don't know. But just the things that we have found in science, though, that doesn't mean that all that's just false. Like, sure, it can't explain everything, but it can explain some things. And the things that some people think that it can't explain, well, sometimes it actually can, and then you're just denying it. So.
Oh, sorry, Trill. You never get it me. Okay, I'm sorry, but you never get me. What I'm trying to say is that the assumption that, for example, okay, there's a theory. Okay, I'll be specific. Let us use the theory of evolution, TOE. In the theory of evolution, there is assumption there before. In right now, for example, the theory of evolution start after life has begun. Okay, the theory of evolution never touched about the topic of the origin of life. The theory of evolution never touched the topic of the original processes.
Well, that's because
Something
it's
like
evolution. What you're talking about is abiogenesis.
Yeah.
Those are two totally separate things.
When people conflate evolution with abiogenesis, that's where we got the problem. Like, a lot of times when you talk about people about evolution, that biology-wise, they never, like, people that don't accept it, it's like they never can really just stick to the evolution thing. A lot of times they go, well, how do you know how the universe was created and the Big Bang? It's like, dude, that's not evolution. You're not even talking about evolution anymore. That's like talking about cosmology and stuff. And yeah. I'm not a cosmology person. Shoot, ask somebody who knows about that kind of thing. I don't know. I like biology, but let's actually stick to the topic here, right? So when people do that, I don't like it. But I understand that, some people think it's like evolution doesn't explain everything. And it's like, yeah, I mean, no, duh. It doesn't explain everything. It's not trying to explain everything. It's biology. That's what it's.
But again, this is an example of, somebody being illiterate. It's right. It's not trying to be derogatory or anything, but those are two separate topics.
Right.
And I know a good bit about biology, but I am definitely not a biologist or a chemist, so I would not be able to accurately describe anything about abiogenesis.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. That's that's the thing that you don't understand. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Okay, this is the reason why I always say this to many hangouts. I always say this to Steve, to many scientists, Fiona, to many scientists especially. I always said to them that we have a theory, and the theory is called the biological evolution. But biological evolution never doesn't include the topic of origin of life. Doesn't touch the topic, the origin of the universe or existence, everything or processes. Doesn't touch the topic of intelligence. And yet we are trying to explain the topic of life in biology, especially the life of biological organisms. So if you are going to think deeper, you will surely conclude that the theory of evolution is just like explaining a flat Earth, while you know that the Earth is round.
I really don't see it like that. I gotta say, again, the reason why evolution doesn't touch on creation of life is because that's abiogenesis. But you can look into abiogenesis. There have been experiments done which describe the conditions that would be needed on early Earth in order for RNA and for RNA to come about naturally. Now, granted that, you know, there are a lot of in the experiment, there's a lot of conditions that would be hard to meet on early Earth, but they could be met. And once you have your basic proteins and RNA, you can start to have the things that you need for very basic single-celled organisms. So, I mean, granted that it is under a very unique set of circumstances, but experiments have been done that show that, at least the way that they described it, that there is at least one way that abiogenesis could occur and you get the basic proteins and RNA that you need for a single-celled life form. You know, there are explanations out there. We don't have them all and we're not certain yet, but, you know, we're making good educated guesses. You know, it's not that because we don't have the information that we're just saying that, oh, this happened and it's for sure, but we're out there trying to figure it out.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. Can I sorry, Trill. Can you see my slide in my screen? Can you see my screen right now? Okay. See my screen right now.
Okay. Just let you know, I mean, I do want to try to stay on topic. So how long is this?
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to give you a simple summary of what is supposed to be. Well, I'm not going to. I know that you can't accept this explanation, but I'm going to give this share to you. What is the evolution in real life and in real science? If you are going to neglect many explanations, for example, the theory of evolution, neglect the origin of life, neglect the just discussed intelligence, neglect the origin of
life because that's not what it's trying to do. Just like how you can't ask chemistry to talk about planets, because that's not what it's about. It's about the elements and how different chemicals network together and stuff and that kind of thing. It's not astronomy. But you can't ask one area of science to another.
But real, you need to understand that in biology we are talking about biological living organism. Organism points totally about life. Did you never put it in your head that we are talking life in biological evolution, especially in biology?
But evolution is not all of biology. You do know that, right? Biology is the bigger subject that might talk more about life and how it functions. All that. Evolution just talks about how different generations come about, like the evolution of a species.
But what I'm trying to say to you is that once we are going to talk about life, for example, in my slide, you see life. If you assume life was not created, was not designed intelligently, you will simply conclude that life followed the process of natural process alone.
What if you do think it was? What if you do think life actually came from a creator and you still think evolution happened?
No, because once there's a creator or there's an intelligent agent who are going to do that, you are going to also include the topic of intelligence.
Yeah, which I do.
But the problem here in our science, we don't know the topic of intelligence. No one had nailed that. No one had ever nailed that. No one had ever nailed.
What do you mean we don't?
We have 71 definitions of intelligence today, and I added just one. And the 71 definition, because we are free to define the topic of intelligence, they are freely defined this topic. and they met this topic. So if you are seeing my screen, you can see that if you are going to include the topic of life, you see once you assume that life is not intelligent design, you will surely conclude that life in biology, and also living organism in biology, doesn't follow intelligence, doesn't only follows non-intelligence. Because you already first presupposed or concluded that life is not designed.
Okay,
Can I jump in?
do any of y'all get what he's saying?
Every
Yeah.
word of it. It was
Yeah.
well spoken. I understood it perfectly. What was the subject again?
Stuart,
No.
do you understand what's going on?
Yeah, I do. So he's trying to say that the theory of evolution is kind of like flat Earth, because flat Earth only takes into a small scope of things, and it doesn't talk about the bigger picture that Mr. Intelligent Design here thinks is apparent. The problem is that the theory of evolution is not the flat Earth. The theory of evolution is the round Earth. Intelligent Design is the flat Earth in his analogy. Really,
Well said.
in his analogy. The Intelligent Design says, well, this looks really nice. It must have been intelligently designed exactly for me. I don't have to go and look and see what is actually real in the real world. I don't have to go out and find out about the roots of biology and the facts of life. I don't have to do any of that, because I can just wash my hands and say it was all intelligently designed for me. Science does not preclude that nature was intelligently designed. It could very well be the case that nature was intelligently designed. It just happens to be the fact that science has not concluded that it was intelligently designed. So,
and as far as intelligence not being studied in science, Polite Contrarian in the live chat says intelligence is widely studied in science.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I mean, that's not like it's something they never touch on. And again, it honestly depends on how you're using that term too.
I'm sorry to say that, but I understand that our science for almost 2,000 years, we are studying intelligence. I knew that. But those people, those scientists who are studying intelligence, they were the one who said that intelligence was a very difficult topic. That's why they cannot nail it. After this, maybe after this, if you tell me, hey, can you give me the link in YouTube? I can give you the link from YouTube about the one who researched the topic of intelligence was the one who said that the topic of intelligence is very hard, and no one can nail it. So how can our science?
In what way does that mean that science has assumed that it can't be intelligently designed? It just happens to be the case that they haven't found yet that it is in fact intelligently designed. They have not precluded it. Do you understand this?
Yeah, I understand it. That's why in other words, that if we could know and nail the topic of intelligence, then we can replace the theory of evolution. And
How?
that's what I did. It's just simple.
If it were intelligently designed, no, Edgar, listen. If it were intelligently designed, the theory of evolution would still hold true. It would just be that it was intelligently designed, and the theory of evolution is the mechanism by which it was exacted.
Exactly, and that's what theistic evolutionists say all the time. They add the God part to it.
The good general's here to help
Right.
out.
No. The model will change, just like Einstein.
In what way? What predictions can you demonstrate that the model will change?
Because once you make a prediction, you will also include
No.
intelligence.
What predictions do you make that will substantiate the change in the model?
First, we need to make the model, because if you don't change the model, we cannot make a prediction.
You're not answering the question.
Yeah.
You just said the models will change. So if you're talking about models, what predictions are you making that should emphasize for us a change in the model?
Yeah,
Oh,
first,
boy.
first the model. First we need to make a model so that we can make a prediction. You are trying to revert the process. You know, in science, you're not going to do that.
You have a model called
You
the
have
theory
first the
of
model.
evolution. So we have a model called the theory of evolution. What predictions do you predict that would that should make us pause and think, okay, you know what, maybe the theory doesn't hold?
First, the prediction of the prediction okay. First, the explanation for my explanation is a biological interrelation. Okay. So if you are going to use evolution by using intelligence, you can predict it. There's the prediction.
How does wait? Okay, can you emphasize?
It could become it could become. Okay.
You said your keywords were biological interaction. What specifically in regards to biological interaction
I say
are
interrelation.
you predicting? Oh, interrelation. Okay, interrelation. So can you define that for me? Because can you clarify furthermore how that will then disprove evolution in all its variety?
Can you see my slide?
I love it. I'm keeping it up.
Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
let's.
yeah.
We're looking for
Thaddeus. Thaddeus, put it like, you know, screen share the whole thing.
Is this even worth it?
Yeah, just for the audience to see.
Yeah, humor. Come on, humor the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm screen. Okay. So that will replace in the only model that will replace the theory of evolution is called biological interrelation, and I will show you why it's different. The definition that you're asking general is this: biological interrelation is that different parties in nature involving in the origin in the change of all organisms with time for the preservation of life, governed by natural mechanisms for interrelation, result in variation of those organisms and originates speciation, and eventually the variety of life form we see on Earth. So to make it short, the big difference.
Okay, can I just jump in a little bit, like just on that definition?
Oh, yeah, sure.
All he's done
Sure.
is made up a new definition label and summarized the theory of evolution.
He's used synonyms here, but
exactly.
What the general for was a prediction. Edgar,
I think he's going to get into that. So
okay,
continue.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
Continue.
Okay. So
maybe just quickly, Thad, this definitely fits the topic of this hangout. I mean,
I'm sorry. Maybe okay. If you don't like this, I will stop. No problem.
No. Keep going. It demonstrates.
Okay. Biological interrelation is interaction or change with time with intelligence. Biological interrelation uses intelligence as basis, while the theory of evolution uses non-intelligence.
Wait, go back. All right, one slide at a time.
Okay.
So you said biological interrelation, which you just defined as evolution, uses intelligence, while in this case, I suppose, atheistic theory of evolution uses non-intelligence. So you haven't refuted evolution. You
go back to your biological interrelation definition and show me intelligence.
Oh boy.
Yeah, because
you've affirmed
the same examples.
Hey Scott, what's going on, man?
Oh wait, okay. In this definition, I use the word the mechanism for interrelation.
Natural mechanism.
I never said.
No. You said no. 1 second. Let me read this out again.
Mechanism for interrelation. Okay.
No. You defined it at the start. You said biological interrelation
Okay.
is that different parties in nature involving in the origin and change of all organisms with time for the preservation of life, governed by natural mechanisms for interrelation, result in variation of those organisms and originate speciation, and eventually the variety of life forms we see on Earth. Now go on the next slide. So this is evolution that you just defined.
No, it's not. It is not. It's not evolution.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not.
It is.
No, because remember.
Well, there we go, guys.
The origin of life. This one also can solve the origin of life.
You've just made up your own anti-evolution.
Edgar, I have a question.
Okay.
Wait. So you've just defined for us an anti-evolution definition for life that somehow speaks evolution, and you've tacked on God to that, and you're cherry-picking your own quote by saying origin and life.
Wait. Every word. Remember every word that I've used in the definition. For example, nature.
Okay, I think we've done the science. I'm speaking to Thad now. So Thad, you've done your science experiment. You've confirmed the title of this hangout.
Yes, I made it.
Yeah. Our scientifically literate people.
So let's be charitable. In your definition, nature really means God, right?
No.
Okay,
it doesn't. It does. Okay.
No, okay. So he thinks this quote here that he's typed up. He thinks this is non-intelligence in this quote. He thinks it's like an evolutionary, naturalistic mechanism. But then 2 slides later, he contradicts himself and says, no, this is intelligence.
Yep.
And he contrasts it with, the theory of evolution.
And
don't you realize, Edgar, you just contradicted yourself
No, I'd never contradict myself.
Oh,
in fact,
okay.
in fact, every word that I use in this definition, in fact, I can show. For example, when I use the word nature, when I use the word origin, when I use the word organism, when I use the word change, when I use the word time, when I use the word life, when I use the word natural mechanism.
Seaman kind of troll.
So this one, every word that I use in science, especially for noun, can be classified, can be categorized by intelligence.
Does an evolutionist use the same words?
Oh, please, sir, not evolutionist.
Some of them use, but this time, every word that I use,
he agrees.
This time, every word that I use, I can categorize all of them through intelligence and non-intelligence.
So let me reread. Can I reread the definition in the way you just highlighted all the words? I think I remembered all the words.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that different parties in nature involving the intelligence and change of all intelligence with time for the intelligence of intelligence governed by intelligence for interrelation result in variation of those intelligence and originate speciation and eventually the variety of intelligence forms we see on Earth. Did I read it right now?
No, you never got it.
You said those words mean intelligence.
I mean, and every word, every word, every noun that I'm using here in my science,
what am I listening
I can classify them if they are non-intelligence or intelligence. That's the greatness of my discovery. Because every word you say in science, even until now, you cannot categorize that if they are intelligence or not.
I'm in awe of this discovery, Edgar.
You should be honest. If, for example, if I'm going to ask you, how about the word organism? Okay, I will choose this organism.
Yep.
Can you categorize this? Can you categorize this the word organism if they are intelligence or not, or non-intelligence? You cannot do that.
Yeah, I could.
Can you categorize that if organism are intelligent or non-intelligent?
Intelligence is a gradient scale, so it would depend.
Yeah,
You
you
see,
know,
you
Stuart, you've given him ammunition by saying gradient scale, because you know what he's going to do next? He's going to go straight to the scale of
Let's
intelligence.
do it. Let's go.
Oh no.
Because I've interacted with him before.
Walk over to the scale, the gradient scale of intelligence.
Well, this is a good example of scientific literacy.
Yeah, we're doing good here.
Yeah.
If you would like to overthrow a theory, if you would like to replace a theory, you must think like Einstein. Okay, remember. Forget this.
Yeah.
Remember.
You just compare yourself to Einstein.
Yeah, come on, man.
You know, when Einstein said that that Isaac Newton could not explain gravity, he used another. He broadened his reality to the whole universe. But remember, but we know that Newton was right also when he talked about gravity. But it was Einstein who had helped us more about gravity, the topic of gravity.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. In what way did Einstein improve Newton's concept of gravity?
Constant of gravity, constant. No, he never improved constant of gravity. He just improved the explanation of gravity in the universe.
In what way?
Einstein had used he had given us a natural mechanism for two objects. For two objects. For example, the sun and the earth. How they orbit each other. Because
what?
That was Newton.
Talking about gravity. Can you explain gravity from an Einsteinian context versus a Newtonian context?
Yeah, you're going Newtonian to theoretical, relativistic descriptions of gravity are different than Newtonian descriptions of gravity. I mean, there's just it's basic. I mean, this is basic.
Yeah, Newtonian is practically two-dimensional plane geometry, and
yeah, where Einstein gets into how light bends based on gravity.
Yeah, and why does light bend?
Well, why didn't you mention that first if you understood that then? That was one of the most defining.
Okay, I'll answer that. Why light bends? Because all object in space, there is in every object, for example, let's use the sun, and there's an object around the sun that I called squeezon.
No.
This is squeezon. And wait, let me explain. I know to answer that question. I thought I can show you that better than other people. There are some people call it graviton, but I call it squeezon. According to Michuka, according to Michuka,
light bends because it has relativistic mass.
No, you don't understand about that. If I'm going to show that to Joe Dam, you don't know that.
I don't. Well, I probably don't. But this is according to Einstein, and I think
very few.
But you don't know how to. But you don't know how to use it. You apply it in reality.
So wait. Wait. Since I'm the moderator of this hangout, what were you trying to show with this PowerPoint again? Because we kind of got off on a side track.
Yeah, let's go back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah, what's the whole point? Like, what were you trying to show with this?
What I'm trying to say in my PowerPoint first is that I said to you a while ago that the theory of evolution is not complete. It is incomplete. It doesn't see the whole bigger picture of the whole. That's why I compare that like the one we see the whole round Earth. We see the whole round Earth, the whole picture of the Earth. That's why I always compare the two. But the biological interrelation and biological evolution.
Okay, can you?
Okay.
All right. These are very broad statements. So see how you put an X here, right? So you've got theory of evolution, and you've got an X for practically everything there. Now,
yes.
Specifically, let's look at the one called process.
Yes.
Now,
okay.
go back to the planet photo.
Pardon me.
One where you have Earth. Now,
This one?
Now, this is an interesting photo. You can see one side of it is purely ocean. The other side is practically landmass.
Yeah, but as a circle.
Now, there's a certain process that the planet has gone through for billions of years to take its current shape. So can you showcase for us an intelligent organization of what you're seeing there in this photo versus a non-intelligent? So what's intrinsic to Earth that causes this shape that you're seeing right now to be directly from an intelligent cause?
What can you be specific? Okay, or your questions are too broad for me. Be specific.
Okay, so go forward 2 slides because you had those X marks. And you were showing, yeah, this one. So let's take one of them called, you've labeled a process.
Okay.
Right, and you put an X there, a red X, because you're saying, like, if you go back, if you go back a slide, you're saying biological interrelation, in this case involving some form of intelligence, will match up with this thing that you've called process. So I'm taking that and
in biology,
going back.
Okay. In biology, okay, and I talking in biology here.
No, no. This you've already put reality there, meaning everything. It's not just biology; it's everything.
No.
Includes the Earth.
No, look, I put biological here.
But you've just put reality as a subset, as a subcategory to this thing called biological interrelation.
Yes, there's a reality in biology. I never said reality of religion, reality of business. I said reality of biology. So I am specific. That's my science.
Okay, so why did you put a planet Earth there then?
Because
why didn't you go straight to biology?
Because I'm comparing. I'm comparing between biological interrelation into biological.
Go back to the Earth photo. Okay, notice the title of this slide: biological interrelation, and it's a planet Earth. This is not a living organism.
No, before I'm explaining. I said that what I said that the biological interrelation. You see, biological interrelation can see light, can explain process, explain.
I'm not seeing any life when I look at that rock.
Can explain origin
landmass.
No, I mean
hang on. There's a good comment in the live chat. Heart on my sleeve says, "Why do people let Edgar into their rooms anymore? He's like King Midas, but instead of gold, everything he touches turns to dumb."
That's not true because you don't understand science. If once you understand intelligence, you will say,
Edgar, do you have to back this up?
Once you understand my theory, you will surely say, Edgar, you are great. You are the most smartest person in the world.
Wait, 1 second. Stay on this.
Hang on.
No, 1 second. This is a pretty good point.
After that, can we please move on to a different point?
Yes. Yes. This photo that's been taken has been taken by scientists who hold to the theory of evolution. Evolution, in a way, resulted in this photo, the possibility of this photo being taken up in outer space. So if we were to use your methodology, your scientific methodology, would they have, in time, been able to develop the technology to take this photo? I don't think so.
No, General, you forgot that they use intelligence. I told you that evolution never use intelligence. Never use intelligence.
No, we get it. Okay.
Those engineers use intelligence.
Right, now we get it. Yeah. Understood. Okay. So basically, what's going on here is that we got apparently 2 different sciences going on. There's the science that we're all familiar with, and then there's Edgar's science. And somehow people can't understand Edgar's science. So And we can't even really do anything with Edgar's science. It seems like a bunch of word games. No matter how much we try to understand it, we can't understand it.
The audacity is absolutely
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say. I always say this to this. You know, maybe people think, maybe some of you think about me that I am insane, moron, or stupid. I have only one challenge to you. Maybe I'm wrong about the topic of intelligence, okay? Because every explanation that I use in my science and everything I use in everyday in my work in everyday life, I always use the word intelligence. So maybe if you could research for me the topic of intelligence in science with Ghost with reality, and then show to me that maybe I'm wrong about the topic of intelligence. So in that time, maybe I will say to you, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Now so far,
show me the money.
What's so the challenge again? Can you say that again?
The challenge is research, because according to the people who are researching the topic of intelligence is a very difficult topic. They cannot nail it. So we need to help
the brain right now, man.
You know,
so what I'm trying to say
Stuart and myself,
help me.
One second. Stuart and myself last night stuck around and we were chatting boxing with Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. If both of them teamed up, they would still not be able to punch any sense into Edgar.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, I kind of want to. So basically, this kind of illustrates kind of what we're talking about here with the whole "our scientific illiterate people stupid." And the thing is, I don't know if it's so much a stupid thing as it's more of a misinformed thing. Because I think also a lot of the people, if you really take it at face value, not all the time, sometimes they do have contradictions within their own lines of thinking, but a lot of times when people have like their own theories and that, I think a lot of stupid theories make sense in of themselves. They don't have a whole lot of contradictions in their own logic. It's when you start trying to apply it to what we already know about how science and that works, and all that's where we get the problems. But a lot of people, logic in of themselves. Like I'm sure if we were to sit down and really try to stretch our brains around what Edgar is trying to say, his own logic might make sense in of itself. It might not. I don't know. It might be that bad. But I can give it the benefit of a doubt.
This is just what happens when somebody tries to make an argument from a position that they've already determined that's going to be their position. If you try to make a theory based off intelligent design, you got to make that work within. You're making a model that's just different words, and words can. Oh goodness, man, you're killing me here. You've already decided what your position is, and you're trying to argue from your position and build your argument around the position that you've already determined.
Right. See, and the only problem with saying something like that is that I'm not trying to be confrontational here. Is that we got to be careful because people on the other side could do the same thing as well. Where they start with the presupposition that that their science, even if it is the mainstream or correct science, that theirs is the correct one, and then they go into everything like that.
Yeah, but
that's something.
I agree with that assessment. And I think even the folks apart from Edgar, the folks in this room, like even I could fall prey to down. It could be 0.1%, but the point is, I could fall prey to such an error or methodology. So there is a gradient, and Edgar's definitely up in the 99%.
Well, I think there is a little bit of a spectrum to this kind of thing. Like when it comes to scientifically illiterate people, notice how I don't use the two terms interchangeably, like it was stupid. I even ask questions, are scientifically illiterate people stupid? Some people say that's a stupid question because it's like, well, of course they are, or of course they're not. But it's more like this. There are certain things that people just are not going to be that well informed of, or they don't do the research on, or they just don't care. Like it's not their interest. Like one of the reasons why my mom is a creationist and that is that she herself has made it abundantly clear she doesn't care to get into the science. And in my opinion, that's okay. As long as you're not trying to push your you shove that kind of idea down people and present it as science and have like a big, website dedicated to the, like what some of the younger creation apologist people do. I think you should be allowed to believe that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like not everybody's going to be into biology. Like there's certain subjects that I'm not into. Like notice how I don't participate a lot in these philosophical things. You know why? Because I find philosophy boring and I'm not going to do the research on it. So therefore I'm not too qualified to talk about the topic. And that's fine. Everybody has their own areas of strengths and weaknesses. The only thing when it becomes a problem is when there's something that you don't know too much about, you start pretending like you know way more about it than you actually do. You start saying, "Oh, the scientists have it wrong."
To challenge.
Yeah, I don't personally have a problem with like ministries like AIG, Answers in Genesis, or whatever, right? But pick your young Earth creationist crowd. Obviously, their science is really bad, and in my opinion, their interpretation of the Bible is just really bad. I mean, that's part of the whole notion of freedom of expression and speech and so on. But what I will have a huge problem with is, and I guess this goes into politics now, like homeschooling. And that sort of thing where a child should have the right for critical thinking with and in my opinion, and I'm speaking as a Christian here, children should not be brought up being taught a certain religious ordeal. That the child should be brought up under the care of profession, like if you're talking about education, under the care of a professional environment where proper science is taught and proper critical thinking is taught. I'm one of those small voices that cries out against homeschooling and indoctrination and all sorts. Even if it's the right theology. Like say for example, if I have a son or daughter later in my life, I suppose you guys would know I would be presenting top scholarly theological stuff. But rest assured, even if it's true and good, I will make sure that my son and daughter will think for themselves first, and then make their decisions when I share information.
I get the concern. I get the concern. It's just the thing is, I have a really tough time interfering with people's, I guess, rights to kind of do, their ability to do with what they kind of want with their kid or their life or whatnot. I think the problem that we get into when it comes to the whole science aspect is not so much the science itself, because we do learn lots of good things in that here. We've made our progress through learning science. And that I think the problem is when you get into now the creation people and that they call it scientism. But when I use the term scientism, I see it more as when you make it so that science is number one in life, that nothing else matters more than science. And you start trying to dictate people's lives and stuff and saying, well, they should, this is bad. They're not teaching the kids proper science and all those kind of things. And that becomes number one focus. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's wrong. When people say that it's child abuse or whatever, just because they're teaching their kids creation, it's like, it's not child abuse. It's their right to do what they want with their kids. It's like, I might not agree with it. It might suck. It might have sucked that I was raised creationist or anything, but the thing is, I was still able to come out pretty okay, because you know why? It's up to each individual if they want to learn the things, if they want to actually know what's out there or not.
No,
I mean, personal
agree.
responsibility does come in to a certain extent.
I agree and disagree. I see what you're saying, and I guess what happens. That's saying, but to lessen the likelihood of a child's psychology or to be scarred and to become where they alienate them. It doesn't have to be younger creationism. What about children born in Jehovah's Witnesses cults and so on? You have a legitimate problem in regards to shunning. What about children born in radical Sunni Islamic families that emphasize jihad and suicide?
Westboro Baptist Church. They've almost disappeared.
Yeah, like
but
I think
they have
and so
they have much bigger problems going on than just bad science. I mean, if we're going to talk about people like that, it's like there's more, it's more of like the whole ideology thing about, basically, ideology, which I believe it's like they teach people to hate other people or to hate even themselves. That's the way bigger problem than the
that's
science.
where I completely agree, and that's where I would even. So that's what a moment ago I said this. I said, say I'm teaching the absolute correct stuff, right? Like say if I'm teaching legitimate proper physics to my child,
right?
I would still fall under the category of hypocrisy if on the one side I'm saying, yeah, those parents have no right to teach their children younger creationism, and here I'm forcing my child to learn, say, Newtonian and Einstein modern physics. So the point is, so this is my point. The point is, whether it's bad science or good science, the first thing that should happen is the child should learn first to think critically by him or herself, and then in a dynamic relationship sense, you should, rather than saying, no, this is the way it is and that's the way it is. And so I'm saying, or if every parent did that, I think the world would be a lot better. I think that the world would be a better place, because here you've been brought up to think a certain way. You have family tradition, and this is in all the cultures around the world. But the next generation ought to constantly start with a clean slate, where that, so-called tradition and so on should not just be automatically, like by default, placed on that person. That person should have the right and the freedom to. There's a sense of innocence in that should not be removed, and then slowly a distilling of good information should then enter into that innocence. That's what I think.
The only problem with that is that not everybody, and I know there's technically only one right out there, okay? There's only one right way. I mean, I understand not everything can be right. Some stuff has to be subjective. But the problem is, according to these parents that did, for instance, just take I hate bringing my own family into this, but this is a good example. This is what I can relate to. My own family. The reason why they raised me creation stuff is not because they were trying to abuse me or whatnot. They thought that was the right way. They honestly thought that, science was kind of making up some of this stuff just to try to push atheism or whatnot.
Right.
If they think that is the right way to go, that's not so much child abuse. It's not like they're trying to do it maliciously. It's the fact that they believe that actually how things are, and that's the best job that they're doing to protect. They were trying to protect me from what they thought was the influence of the outside world.
And I'm just suggesting the fact that I think even I would fall under. I would do something like that. In my own context, my own upbringing, my own experiences in life would then it would be I'll become like a robot where I automatically function a certain way when I have children. I will program them to think my way. But I think we all of us, like literally every parent, would have to agree to have a sense of humility in realizing that, look, we could all be wrong in certain areas and so on in context, and therefore it's wrong to actually indoctrinate. So, for example, if I was teach my son or daughter, say, relativity, it's true science, it works, but you're still falling under the category of forcing something onto them without actually allowing them to do the critical thinking, and then for them to ask questions and so on. And at the same time, even when you do give the answer, you still maintain with them a critical mindset of, that's not the answer, that there'd be a better answer for us when you grow older.
I don't agree that it's forcing anybody on something, because it's not like I was forced.
Yeah, I'm being very broad with that.
Yeah, I'm not.
I think I'm being deliberately broad with that.
I think very few people are not forced to believe a certain way or whatnot. Like they can still choose not to. Like you can't really force something on somebody like that. I mean, the best you can do is just say, "Hey, this is what we believe as Christians," or "Hey, it's what we believe," you know, as scientifically literate people. It's not really forcing. Like you're not going to teach something that you yourself don't think is true to your child.
Well, certain traditions can be forced on a child, you know, that they really won't have any control over, you know. I mean, take, for example, the Jewish community with brisks, you know, and circumcision. Now, luckily, that ended up being beneficial in the long run, but it's still, you know, a practice that's pretty much done in every hospital now, right off the bat. You know, so there are some religious traditions that do get through, but in that example, it ended up being beneficiary. You know.
So before I leave, Trill, can I give you my last word? Okay. Before that, I would like to give you thanks for letting me in into your hangout. And the topic
if it is
here
short,
is,
you can.
Short. Okay, short. The topic here is: are scientifically illiterate people stupid? Now, I see you, all of you who doesn't know about intelligence. I see you as an illiterate, because you don't know about intelligence.
Well,
Okay,
I actually came in specifically to ask you a question.
Hang on. He's doing his closing statement. Let him talk, and then.
Here's the closing statement. Okay, so from my side, I see all of you who doesn't know about intelligence. I see you as an illiterate, or maybe you can call them stupid or science. But that's why my challenge to all of you is that you can call me stupid. I want you to call me stupid. I want you to call me moron or insane. That's why, please, for the sake of science, research the topic of intelligence in science. That is better than me.
Okay.
So that I will shut up. Okay. Okay. Please do that.
Well, I have a question specifically to you. Would you consider yourself intellectually honest, and why?
The reason why I think I am intellectually honest, because I have science book to share to the whole world. I have dated all of my discoveries, so that
if you were ever wrong, would you admit it?
Of course I will. I'm looking for that. That's why I'm joining some online debates forum. I'm joining this kind of hangout because I'm looking for my Max Planck. I'm looking for a person who could rebut me.
What? I'm looking for my Max Planck.
You keep talking about this intelligence, but you never really define what it actually is.
Well, Mr. Intelligent Design, if you said your statement, you are. I don't want to sound rude or anything, but I mean you are free to leave.
Thank you.
You are free to leave.
Okay. Sorry. I had to go. But thank you for giving me this time. But
yeah, sure.
I hope that someday you are going to face that challenge like me. So now maybe you are not serious, but once you are serious about like me, I face that.
All my Christian virtues are going out the window, because I honestly hope, when I say this, all my virtues are going out the window. I hope you don't reproduce, honestly. Like, it's
oh, man.
You know.
I hate that.
I think that you're also a scientist. Please, if you know, in science, if you are a scientist, it is stupidity in science to call a discovery stupid if you don't know you don't know the right answer. Okay, please. Okay, sorry.
It was nice talking to you, Mr. Intelligent Design. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Trill.
All right.
Thank you. Okay.
Goodbye.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed. Nice talk.
Can I go for a second? Can I just have like a two minute monologue?
Monologue? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Maybe not 2 minutes.
As long as
45 seconds.
Okay, as long as you do not make it boring, like
No.
Mr. Intelligent Designs.
No, and here's why intelligent designs in Edgar's in Edgar's realm fails. It fails because if it happened to be the case that there were a different set of circumstances, he could also say that, hey, look, this is also intelligently designed. It could be the case that the sky is green and the ocean's red, and Edgar would say, look at how intelligently designed this is. That's why it fails. He has no, I think General touched on it a little bit, but he was all over the place, so we couldn't really get into it. He has no mechanism by which to contrast that which he thinks is intelligently designed versus something that he can show that's not intelligently designed.
He doesn't realize he's contradicting his own thesis.
Oh, and those definitions were fucking hilarious.
He showed evolution without saying evolution.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I hope Steve McRae gets a clip of that or whatnot, or whatever he wants to do with it.
It's just for people that want to follow his model, just know you have jumped the shark, and you will not be taken seriously after you compare yourself to fucking Einstein. You will not be taken seriously at that point.
There's more sanity inside a black hole than what I saw there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and he says go research intelligent design. It's very difficult to research intelligent design because there's no data on intelligent design. We have not gathered any data that would indicate that anything has been intelligently designed. That's not to say that it wasn't intelligently designed. There's still an opportunity for data to arrive to us in some way or another that would indicate that things were intelligently designed. It's rather the case that there is no data to confirm anything was designed intelligently. So he says go research, and I'd love to, buddy, but there is no research out there.
What?
Yeah. Yep.
What exactly does he think he is? Like some fucking all-knowing being?
He thinks he's a revolutionary.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, don't you know? I mean, after all, he did explain how. Yeah, revolutionary. So.
Yeah,
but, you know,
and so when
the reason why we don't get it is because he hasn't been like published in like any history thing yet. I mean, maybe this is what people like, Newton and that had to go through.
Well, that's the problem. He has he claims to be the main purveyor of this theory, and he doesn't have any data either. He has word games. He has a PowerPoint with word games and a false analogy to flat Earth.
Yeah,
So,
he keeps going on about this intelligence, and he never really defines what it is. He just everyone should know what this intelligence is. I mean,
but since
sorry, we don't.
But since we have been going on for a while, I'm going to give everybody a chance to do their closing statements for the hangout here. Are scientifically illiterate people stupid? And if you can, do you have any sort of thing in your closing statement that you think would be a good way to be able to educate people who are more on a layman kind of side about these kind of topics? As I discussed before, approaching it on a more scientific, technical kind of point of view with some of these people might not be ideal. If we're really trying to educate people, we're not just going to try to point and laugh at them. So I'm going to go from left to right on my screen. General, your final thoughts?
Okay. I think I'm going to shock everyone. I'm bringing back my Christian virtues in this closing.
All right.
I genuinely think that everyone, including Edgar, has the ability, no matter their bandwidth, their mental bandwidth, has the ability to think rationally in various contexts. It doesn't have to be up to, say, differential equations and understanding how to do tensor calculus and all that. Even a simple layman can be, say, a science communicator, or a seeker of truth, and so on, and can creatively think in various contexts. I believe someone like Edgar can do something like that. Unfortunately, when I said he can do that, notice he's not allowing himself to do that. And so I think the crux of the title, with then, being more serious here, is that if you're scientifically illiterate, you are not stupid, but you have the choice to make yourself look like you're stupid, or literally trap yourself in such a way, or like where you fall into a mental oblivion where you don't even realize it, that you're just hindering yourself and causing yourself to be stupid. So and this is a warning, I think, even to myself, like it's for everyone. It's not just for Edgar. So Edgar here could be an example of exactly that, where to help those realize and see, and not to do what he's doing, to allow you to think critically and so on. So yeah, that's my closing.
Banana Jack, your final thoughts? If you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, again, I do not believe that scientifically illiterate people are stupid. It's like what General said about Edgar. It's whether you decide to keep those blinders up or not, And as far as trying to make somebody less illiterate when it comes to science, just find out what they know about and try to find examples that they will understand. Like I said earlier about having a friend that was a dog breeder, and try to explain along those levels. Get creative with your explanations. Don't bring it down to their level. That's not what I'm saying, but find common ground with them where you can try to get ideas across, and they'll be able to latch onto it, because those are the far more effective conversations.
All right. Kelsires, your final thoughts?
I came in late, but I don't think they're stupid. I think there are some that are willingly, not to quote Kent Hovind here, but willingly ignorant. And I'm starting to think that Edgar is one of those people. Where he chooses
that idea
to believe he has a different idea than everyone else when trying to present something that is almost identical to evolution, other than a few words that he's changed to make himself sound more intelligent, but it makes him sound stupider. People try too hard to overcompensate, and I think that's stupid. But if you're not overcompensating for your idiocy, no, you're not stupid. You're just uneducated.
Scott, your final words? If Scott's still there.
Yeah, I don't think scientifically illiterate people are stupid. But what I do think is stupid is like closing your mind to, if someone comes in and shows you this is, I can show you evidence for this, I can show you this, I can show you this and that, and they still decide, no, you're wrong, or I don't know if that's stupid or crazy, but it falls into those categories, kind of, when you can't be like flat earthers, you show them this, you show them that, and they go, well, that's all CGI, or they're making excuses at that point. That I think is stupid. I mean, it gets to the point where it crosses the line there. But no, I don't. I mean, if you don't know the terminology and stuff, you can go out and learn the stuff if you want. But a lot of people just don't want to know that stuff. They're not interested in it, and that doesn't make them stupid, I don't think.
Stuart, your final words.
Well, Well, I guess I'd agree with everyone else that being scientifically illiterate does not mean that you're stupid. But I'll take a little time to just address a few more things that Edgar says, that science assumes X, Y, and Z. Science assumes that it can't be X, Y, and Z. Science assumes that something can't be intelligent. Science assumes that there is no God. None of this is true. It could have been that Mr. ID came in with his new intelligence and blew our fucking tits off. He could have presented something that was just awesome, and we would be really questioning ourselves. But what he peddles is middle school word games. So that might be mean, but that's the truth of it. Talking to him is like going out and getting fast food. It's a real good idea. It's fun. The first 2 bites are freaking delicious. You're like, oh man, this is great. And then the next 2 bites, you're like, oh, I regret this. I regret going down this black hole. This is stupid. And that's what it's like. So,
yeah. That's kind of how I felt when I had Mr. Intelligent Design in this room.
Oh yeah, the first little bit, was like, you know, it's fun. We're interacting. You know, it's like you got a little cattle prod and you're poking it. You're like, oh, look at it move, look at it move. It's fun. And then you really get into it and you're like, oh
yeah.
This person actually thinks this. I'm dealing with a human that thinks this. So yeah, and to the points about public school versus private school, I believe heavily in public school. It's necessary to produce par humans.
Right.
So,
and we also have Red in the side chat saying use videos like the stuff Vsauce to help educate people about scientific subjects. The use of video and audio with simple explanations are effective tools in educating folks about cool science. Those are his 2 cents worth. As far as what would actually be good or not, again, I'm not too familiar with his channel, so I can't recommend it for sure.
I can.
Okay. But I'm just going to say that for other channels, that like ones that do explanations, we live in a digital age. To get through to people who are, you know, of that digital age, like people around my generation and stuff, I think those would probably be one of the best ways in a simple, easy, digestible kind of format.
Watch Carl Sagan.
God, love that guy.
Cosmos, those are some of the best. I haven't watched many of the new Cosmos.
Oh man, it's good.
They're good.
Right. So I mean, my closing statements is: are scientifically illiterate people stupid? You already know that I think it's weird because there's a yes and a no. Because yes, in the sense that if somebody is, you know, getting to the point where they're just so ignorant or they don't willing to look into anything, they're just willing to spout their mouth, and it starts getting to the point where you notice that kind of mentality creeps into other everyday things, where it's like there's other things they don't approach properly, then I'm willing to say someone is stupid. But if it's just some sort of scientific concept they don't understand or they don't get, like for instance, my parents, when it comes to evolution, it's like, no, they're not stupid because they don't quite understand how that works. There's lots of other areas that they are pretty good at. And it goes for a lot of people. I mean, as I said before, not everybody here is a scientist, and I think that's a good thing. There's people like me who are more artistic-minded. That's what I want to get into, not really science-type stuff. Science things are more, like biology is more of a side hobby kind of thing. I just look into every now and then if I want to. And I think that's not a bad thing. As far as educating other people on the scientific stuff, if they want to learn or whatnot, I think we do need to break it down to a simpler level for some of these people so they can understand. Because not everybody is on that level where they understand all technical language that we're talking about. And for those that don't quite understand, those that are trying to learn, I think, you know, if we want them to learn, I think it's important that we don't exactly, you know, I guess, make them feel bad that they don't get some of these concepts and all that. Because some people do come into a community like this with willing to learn. Not everybody, but some people do. And those people who are willing to take the time to get it or whatnot, I think it's important that, I don't know, if you want the community to be a place of learning, then to actually be able to treat those people properly. So those are my 2 cents. You can like it or not. Thanks for thanks for watching the Hangout, everybody. If you like conversations like this, be sure to subscribe to the Great Debate Community channel if you want to. That way you can keep up with this channel and when we actually have these discussions. The Great Debate Community Google Plus community page is a good place to discuss things like science, philosophy, and theology. A lot of people around here for this discussion really like the science part of it, but that's not everybody. So there's more to it. Steve McRae, he's the owner of this Great Debate Community brand. You might want to check out his channel if that's kind of your thing. And there's a podcast I do with my friend MX Pin Valentine on his channel at MX Pin Valentine. Every now and then we talk about this community, but we'll talk about politics, entertainment, games, kind of whatever. His channel's kind of going through a bit of a strike thing right now because somebody kind of sniped it and stuff. But when that gets sorted out, hopefully we'll be back to doing that on Fridays. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been your boy Trill The Cyberspace Fay, and peace out.